1. Summer Term B. At last in my bed. I don't like other people inside my room because I'm terrified they're going to uncover one of my secrets, like my fan art habits or my internet history, or the fact that I 100% is still asleep with a teddy bear. I particularly don't like other people in my bed, not since I was 12, and I had a nightmare about a Tamagotchi that spoke in a really deep male voice with a friend while I was sleeping over. I punched her in the face, and she got a nosebleed and cried. An accurate metaphor for most of my past friendships. Despite this that night, I ended up with Allie last in my bed. That was, no, not like that. When Allie and I got off the train, or in Allie's case, fell off the train and walked down the stone steps and joined the station to our country village. Allie announced that Daniel Hun had his keys because Daniel was wearing his jacket, which had his keys inside them, and he couldn't wake his mom up because he would literally she would literally chop his head off. That way he said it was pretty convincing, and his mom was one of the Academy's parents, governors. So for a few seconds, I actually believed him. I've always found Allie's mom intimidating. Like, with one word, she could probably shatter my self-esteem and feed it to her dog. Not that that's very hard. Anyway, yeah. So I was like, what? Do you want to sleep at mine or something? Obviously joking, but then he leaned all his weight on my shoulders and was like, well, and I let out a laugh this time. I didn't see this coming from the moment we got off the train. So I just said, fine. He fell asleep straight away. Anyway, I wasn't one of those weird 40-year-olds who thought that boys and girls couldn't platonically share a bed. Alad came into my house and fell asleep on my bed without saying anything. And when I came back from the bathroom where I changed into my pajamas, he was asleep, facing away from me, his chest moving slowly up and down. I turned off the light. I wish I was a bit more drunk too, because it took me a good 2 hours to fall asleep, like it always does. And for the whole 2 hours, when I wasn't playing games on my phone or scrolling through Tumblr, I had to stare at the back of his head in the soft blue light of my bedroom. The last time somebody had slept in a big double bed with me was Carrie, when I was 15, a few nights before she ran away. Yet I squinted a bit, and if I squinted a little, I could almost pretend that it was her, with the same blonde hair and no feelers. But when I opened my eyes, it was quite clear the Alad, not Carrie, who was in my bed. For some reason, I found that kind of reassuring. I don't know. Alad needed to cut his hair, and his jumper, I suddenly realized, belonged to Daniel. I know, right? I woke up first, at 11ish. Alad didn't seem to have moved for the entire night, so I checked quickly to see whether he died. He hadn't. Before getting out of bed, I briefly went over last night's discussion. They all seemed to match up to my expectations of myself. Pushover will put self-awkward position to guarantee the safety of people I barely knew. Will ask awkward questions and deeply regret them later. Alad last being in my bed really was a classic then later. Alad last being in my bed really was a classic then later. Alad last being in my bed was a classic Francis thing that happened. When Alad was I gonna say to him when he woke up, hey there, Alad, you're in my bed. You probably don't remember why. I promise I didn't. Bring here by force, by the way. You know that weird podcast thing you made for YouTube? Yeah, basically I've been obsessed with it for 4 years. I intimidately went downstairs, better break the news to my mom before she found him, and assumed that her daughter had gained a small, apologetic boyfriend without telling her about it first. Mom was in the den, in her unicorn onesie, watching the Game of Thrones. She looked up as I entered the room and slept down next to her on the sofa. "Hello there," she said. She had a packet of dry shreddies in one hand. She popped one into her mouth. "You look a bit sleepy." "Well," I said, but wasn't quite sure where to go from there. "Did you have fun at the disco?" she asked. But she was grinning. I pretended to be clueless about anything 21st century teenagers did, along with being sarcastic to teachers. This was another thing she enjoyed. "Did you get down? Did you turn up?" "Oh yeah, we were jibbing and everything," I said, and did a little rendition of Jibby. Good. That'll get you laid." I laughed loudly, mostly at the idea of her getting me laid in a situation ever. But then we exaggerated slowness. She pressured positively on the remote. She paused on the TV remote, cast aside the pack of shredders, and stared into my eyes, licking her fingers together on her apron, as a teacher might do over the desk. Speaking of which, she continued, "I was just wondering who exactly the lone young chap sleeping in your bed is." "Oh, okay, yeah," I said with a laugh. "Yes, that lovely young chap. I came into your room to get some washing, and there he was." Mom spread out her hands as if relieving to the scene. At first, I thought he was some sort of giant teddy bear, one of those Japanese cartoon pillows that you were showing me on the internet. "Yeah, no, he's a real boy." He was wearing clothes, so I'm assuming there wasn't any hanky-panky. "Mom, even when you use this phrase, hanky-panky, iron, alecky, it still doesn't make me want to plug my ears with super glue." Mom didn't say anything for a moment, and neither did I. And then we both heard a loud crash from upstairs. "It's Al at last," I said. "Carrie's twin brother. Your friend's brother." Mom crackled. "Oh, wow. We're turning into a bit of romantic comedy here, aren't we?" It was funny, but I didn't laugh, and Mom's expression turned serious. "What's going on, Francis? I thought you were going to stay out later with your friends. God knows you deserve some kind of end-term celebration before you get stuck into your exam revision." She looked at me sympathetically. Mom had always thought I cared too much about schoolwork. Mom was generally the opposite of what you'd expect any normal parent to be, but somehow she managed to be amazing anyway. Alec was drunk, so I had to take him home. He forgot his keys, and his mom's a bit of a dickhead, apparently. "Oh, yes," Carol asked. Mom pursed her lips. She gaped off, revealing a memory. "She always tries to talk to me at the post office." Another thump sounded from my room. Mom frowned and looked up. "You haven't seriously wounded him, have you? I think I better go check on him." "Yes, go and check on your man. He's probably clambering out the window." Come on now, Mother." My romantic partner wouldn't ever want to chamber at the window. She smiled, that warm smile of hers. That always made me think she knew something I didn't. I stood up to leave. "Don't let him escape," said Mom. "This could be your only chance at securing a spouse." Then I remembered the other thing Mom should probably know about. "Oh, by the way," I said, turning to her, "you know, at university." Mom's laugh dropped into an expression of confusion. Yeah. Yeah, so Alan made that." I realized then that Alan probably wasn't going to remember having told me that he was creator of university. Great, another awkward situation I was going to have to deal with. What? Said Mom. What do you mean? He sent me that Twitter message. He's a creator of university. I found out yesterday. Mom just stared at me. Yeah, I said. I know, right? Weird. I walked back into my room to find Alec crouching next to the bed, holding a coat hanger like it was a machete. As I entered, he spun around to face me, his eyes all wild and his hair too long, sticking out in all directions from where he'd slept. I guess he was sort of petrified. Fair enough. It took me a few seconds to decide what to say. Were you planning to despite me with a coat hanger? He blinked once, and then lowered his weapon and stood up straight, his terror subsiding a little, and gave him once over, of course. He was still in the same outfit he had last night, Daniel's burgundy jumper and dark jeans. But for the first time, I noticed that he was wearing these really excellent lime green pistol bands with fluorescent purple laces, and I really wanted to ask him where he got them. Oh, Francis Xavier, he said, and he still pronounced my surname correctly. Then he let out a long breath out and sat down on my bed. I was seeing an entirely different person now that I knew he was the creator, the voice of Radio Silence. He didn't even look like Alec Last anymore. Not the Alec Last I knew. Not Daniel Hunn's silent shadow. Not the boy who didn't even seem to have a personality at all. Not the boy who just smiled and agreed with whatever you said to him, and generally, to be honest, seemed to be the most boring, basic individual in the known universe. He was Radio Silence. He'd been making a YouTube show for almost 2 years, a beautiful, limitless explosion of a story. I was on the verge of having a fangirl meltdown for Christ's sake. How embarrassing is that? Jesus Christ, he said. His voice was so quiet now that he was sober. It was like he wasn't quite used to normal conversations or anything. Something like that. He had to force himself to speak out loud. I thought I was being kidnapped. Then he put his face in his hands and elbows on his knees. He stayed like that for quite a while. I stayed standing awkwardly in the door. Oh, sorry, I said. I wasn't sure. I was apologizing for. You didn't ask. I didn't just lure you into my house. I didn't have any ulterior motives. He looked me up and down, wide again, and I thought, oh yeah, that sounds like something with ulterior motives would say. This is really awkward, he said, his mouth twisting into a sort of half smile. I'm the one who should be apologizing. Yeah, this is really awkward. Do you want me to just leave? Applause. Well, it's not well, I'm not gonna stop you from leaving. I'm seriously not a kidnapper. Alec gave me a long look. Wait, he said. We didn't hook up. The idea sounded so completely idiotic that I actually let out a laugh. In hindsight, I thought it would have been more rude. I thought it would have been a bit rude. Oh no, you're good. Okay, he said. He looked down, and I could really tell that he was thinking, yeah, that'd be really weird. There was a pause. He did say something about university before you went. He clearly didn't remember anything about that. I'm a rubbish liar, and I can't keep secrets either. He finally put down the coat hanger, and he'd be clutching in one hand. You have a really cold one, by the way, he said shyly. And he nodded toward my Welcome to the Night Owl poster. I love Welcome to the Night Owl. Of course he did. Welcome to the Night is another internet podcast show that I adored, just like I did University. I preferred University though. I liked the main characters more. I didn't know what you were into that stuff, he continued. Oh yeah. Oh, I wasn't sure where he was going with this. Well, yeah. I just thought you liked studying and being a girl, and yeah. Oh, right. I let out an awkward laugh. School was my life and my soul, everything about me. So I guess he was right. Well, yeah, my grades are pretty important. And being head girl and stuff, like I'm applying to Cambridge, so I need to I have to study quite a lot. So yeah, he watched me as I spoke and nodded slowly and said, yeah, fair enough. But it didn't sound like he cared half as much about that as he did my welcome to the night out poster. He then realized he was staring, so he looked down and said, sorry, I'm making this even weirder. He stood up, flattening his hand. I'll just leave. It's not like that. It's not like we're gonna see each other much anymore. What? Because I've left school and stuff. Oh. We stared at each other. This is gonna be so awkward. My pajama bottoms have teenage Boston Ninja Turtles on them. You told me you made the university, I said so quickly. I thought I was intimidating, scared he didn't hear me. My reasoning was that since there was no easy way to bring this up, I might as well just blurt it out. This is how I get through most of my life. I thought I'll bring this up. I might as well just blur it out. This is how I got through most of my life. Aled said nothing, but his face dropped. He stepped backward a little. I told you, he said, but his face drifted into silence. I don't know how much you remember, but I stopped myself before I said anything that made me sound truly psychotic. I really, really love your show. I've been listening to it since it started. What, he said, and sounded genuinely surprised. But that's like almost 2 years. Yeah, I laughed. How weird is that? And his voice got louder. That's really cool. Yeah, I seriously love it. I don't know, the characters are all just so well-rounded and relatable, especially Radio. The whole agender thing is literally genius. When the girl voice first appeared, I listened to the episode 20 times, but it's so good. And when you're not sure whether it's a boy voice or a girl voice, those are amazing. I mean, none of these voices are girl or boy voices, are they? Radio doesn't have a gender anyway. Yeah, the sidekicks are so brilliant as well, but they're not all to the Doctor Who sexual tensions. They're just there. Lone people, and it's really good how they're not all BFFs with Radio. Sometimes they're enemies, and every single story is so hilarious. But you really can't guess what's gonna happen. But all the ongoing plots are good too. I still have no idea why Radio can't take their gloves off, or what's been kept in the dark blue binding or whatever. Radio ever going to meet Phobos, and I'm not even gonna bother about asking you about the February Friday conspiracy, because that would ruin the whole thing. Yeah, it's so good. I can't explain how much I love it, seriously. Throughout this, Ellie's eyes got wider and wider. Halfway through, he sat back down on my bed near the end of the car. He covered his hands on his sleeve. When I finished, I instantly regretted everything. I'd never met a fan of the show before, he said. His voice quiet again, almost inaudible, and then he laughed. He brought his hands up to the cover of his mouth like he had last night, and I wondered, not for the first time, why he did that. I glanced on one side. Also, I continued, thinking that was when I was going to tell him about I Was Troy Lewis, his fan artist that he'd contacted on Twitter. It flashed through my head. Me telling him was freaking out. Me showing him 37 sketchbooks, him freaking out even more. Him calling me weird, him running away, and never even seeing him again. I shook my head. I forgot what I was about to say. Aled lowered his hands. Okay. You should have seen my face yesterday when you told me, I said, with a forced laugh. He smiled, but he looked nervous. I looked down. So yeah, anyway, You can go home now if you want, sorry. Don't apologize, he said, in that whispered voice. It took quite a lot of effort not to say sorry for saying sorry. He stood up, but he didn't go to walk out the door. He looked around like he wanted to say something, but didn't know which words to choose. Or I could get you some breakfast if you want. No pressure, you don't have to. I feel bad, he said, but he was smiling faintly, and for the first time, I felt like I knew what he was thinking. It's fine. People don't come around my house very often, so it's nice. I realized how sad I sounded as soon as I said it. Okay, he said, if you don't mind. Cool. He glanced around my room once last time. I was almost about my desk with messy worksheets and revision notes scattered everywhere, including on the floor. He looked at my bookshelves, which had a mix of classical literatures I was planning to read for my Cambridge interviews and some DVDs on them, including the entire Studio Ghibli collection Mom got me for my 16th birthday. He looked outside my window and toward his house. I didn't know which window of his house belonged to him. I never told anyone about university, he said, glancing back at me. I thought they'd think I was weird. There's 100 things I could have said to him in reply to that, but I just said the same. And there was silence again. I think we're just trying to absorb what was happening. To this day, I still have no idea whether he was particularly happy about this revelation. Sometimes I think maybe everything would be okay. It would have been better if I didn't. I had never told him that I knew. Other times I think it's the best thing I'd ever seen in my whole life. So breakfast, I said, because there is no way to this conversation. There is no way this conversation, this meeting, this stupidly extreme coincidence would be ending here. Yeah, okay, he said, and looked at his voice. Was still also quiet and shy. He really sounded like he did want to stay, just so he could talk to me for a bit longer.